Country Fellow speaks this morning. I'm going to show you guys the palette that I'm going to use for the song Thunderstruck in my show and for the song Your Ways Are Better in the show. First, I wanted to show you that I labeled these. This is going to be the second palette in my show. This is actually going to be songs 3 and 4. I will show you the other palettes later. I chose to do this palette first because I thought it would be one of the quicker ones to do, and it has more space for us to actually see what's going on. Notice I put that this is the front, that this is, so this is going to face the spectators to make sure they can see things a little bit easier. Back here you will see that I labeled this as the back, just so that, just another reminder that I've got it in the right spot. You'll notice here I've labeled that this is Thunderstruck, which is going to be Q4. I pointed where the fuse is just in case my igniter does not go off. On Q3 will actually be Your Ways Better, which is on the other side. I've got it labeled with Q3 and where the fuse is there also. So let me show you what I'm actually going to be shooting in this show. By the way, this is my brush that I use to sweep off the clay, because I've cut the bottoms off of most of these fireworks so that when I do the liquid nails, it bonds better to the wood, because I transfer these or transport these pallets. So I use this brush to get rid of the excess clay. I've already done this on most of the palette this morning to save a little time. So let's actually get through the fireworks that are going to be in the show, and I will talk about some of the fuse times. Well, let me talk about that fuse time now, as a matter of fact. So we're looking at Thunderstruck here. So when I was doing Thunderstruck, I noticed, hey, this thing is going to run for about 25 seconds from this first part of the song. I labeled it as the guitar builds into the na 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 na, and so I noticed that was going to run about 25 seconds. So I found me a firework that was pretty close to 25 seconds that did the effect that I wanted to do. Here I'm using the fat green fuse. You'll recognize from my video where I was testing fuse times, and when I divided the 25 by my little formula that I found, which is 2.4, I got that this needs 10.4 inches. So I did a little less than 10.5 inches, and I did this all the way down so I would know how much fuse I need to connect each one. And I took my fuse and I put a piece of tape here, and this tape will be on, I don't want the fuse laying on top of tape, so this is actually where it's going to touch the firework, and the fuse will be going this direction. When I get to the next part, this will touch the firework and the fuse will be going this way, so that my fire runs that direction and hits all my fuses, hits the black powder, fires everything off the right way. So I went through and I took this fuse and I marked every spot for every song that was going to be needed in this show, just to make it easier for me to know which of these to do. And so I didn't have to measure the fuse every time while I was fusing these up for you guys. So now let's actually go through the fireworks that I'm going to have in these two songs. I'm going to start with Pheasants in Flight for Thunderstruck. That's going to go into this Firefly here, followed by Bamboozle into Enforcer over here. From Enforcer, we're going to go into Piranha Panic, over to this Just Hanging, into Mojo, into Wind Up, and finish with Monkey Business over here. And that should run the entire 4 minutes and 44 seconds. Also, I'm going to fuse an artillery rack here. I believe I'm going to put Master 6 Plus artillery shells in those, and I'll have them timed to go off about one every 28 seconds, I believe, so that constantly during the entire song we're going to have an artillery shell going up in the air and bursting. I will connect those to this fuse as I'm doing it. Let me go ahead and show you the fireworks we will be doing for Your Ways Better also. I'm going to start with this all-nighter here. After the all-nighter, we're going to go to this highfalutin, hit the road jack combo. I put about a 10-second delay between the highfalutin and the hit the road jack combo when I do those, because it just makes the timing a little bit better. After those, we're going to have another all-nighter mixed, and at the same time, we're going to shoot this pheasant hunt. So we have these two going off at the same time. Follow that up with a bling bling. Follow that up with a dragon duel. Finish that out with the rodeo, which is the little spirals. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and let my wife video me fusing a few of these cakes, so you'll see how I do it with the zip ties and different things. So let me hand this over to my wife. So I'm going to go ahead and take this zip tie. I'm going to take my fuse that I've already got with the tape. This is going to be my fuse that is going to go to the mortar rack with my artillery shells in it. So I'm going to fuse both of these together, and you'll notice the way I've done this is I've got a little bit of extra fuse here at the end, and I'm not tying these two together at the very end of it because my igniter is actually going to attach here. If I put these all the way to the end, my igniter will not close around this and get a good fire. So I'm going to back these up just a little bit. So when I did my math, I considered this extra ½ inch so I'd have a place to put my igniter. So I'm just going to take one of these little zip ties here, and since it's the first one, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go ahead and start with a loop. I'm going to go ahead and slide it on here, and I'm going to go ahead and get these fuses set in here. So pull these fuses in, get this to the back, and I'm ready now to get this. I want to make sure I have my extra ½ inch. I want to make sure these two line up pretty well so that the fire feeds into them, and I'm just going to pull this thing tight, and now I know that that thing is secure. I'm going to go ahead and get a second zip tie, because as I told you before, I want to make sure I get as much connection as possible. So I'm going to make sure these fuses are touching one another really well, and I will put another zip tie on the end. Now I feel much more secure that the fire will hit both the black powder on both of these. This is almost instant fused, by the way, that's going to go to my artillery shells, and it's going to run, and if it doesn't fire here, I have chances for it to ignite all the fuses till we get here. So next we're going to go to this firefly. Actually, before I get to the firefly, I'm going to go ahead and take my liquid nails, and I'm going to go ahead and put some liquid nails on this pheasant in flight here to make sure it stays where I want it to stay. And I'm going to put a healthy portion of that on there after I've got it fused. And I would suggest you do not glue these until after you've got your fuse ready, because if you glue it before that and you decide, hey, my fuse was a little shorter than I thought, a little longer than I thought, I want to move these around, you're going to have an issue. So I would suggest you glue these as you fuse them. Next, I have this firefly. I've already tested this morning to make sure that this length is going to be enough to hit this firefly. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this firefly down real quick. Put a healthy portion of that liquid nails on there to make sure nothing chaotic happens. I also put, I drew a little line to make sure I stayed in there. That's not something you have to do, it's something I wanted to do. If you would, I want you to zoom in over here. I went through this in another video, but this is something people don't think about when doing pallets. I told you guys I generally cut the tops on 3 sides so it folds back when the show starts. Why do I do that? So it protects the firework until it starts blowing up. When it starts blowing up, this flips over. It might flap a little bit, but it's less trash to clean up on the ground. Plus I get to see what's happening, because this firefly is going to go straight up. And this is not going off at the same time as this, so I'm not worried about the shells colliding. But what I did, or what I was a little bit afraid of, was making sure that if I put this firefly too close here, then what was going to happen, I was going to have this shell here actually collide with this. And I used a stick to make sure that was going to happen. That's the one you'll notice this is cocked just a little bit, because I wanted to make sure that I have clearance for this shell to not hit that cake. In the back, I have clearance. Here, I have clearance, so we don't have a crazy ricochet going on. I wanted to throw that out just to make sure you're considering that if you're using pallets, so that you don't put those too close and have a ricochet happen. So I want to go ahead and fuse up this firefly to my pheasants in flight now. I will take me a zip tie here, and since I know I'm going to go into this fuse, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go ahead and get me a zip tie started so that when I come around to this thing, it's a little bit easier to get it done. So let's look at where this fuse is located on this firefly. It's kind of hard to see. I'm going to turn this around just a little bit so you guys can see it. But and you'll notice this gets a little cramped when you do these fireworks and you're trying to do them all with one fuse. So here we have our firework getting ready to go here. And again, you want to make sure that your fire is going in the correct direction of your zip tie. So you'll notice my fire is coming from this pheasants in flight. It's coming in this direction. So when I'm fusing this, I want to make sure the end of this fuse here is laying in the correct direction so the fire feeds it. So I'm going to zip tie this at the very top of this tape, which is where I have it marked to attach that firework. And now I know that's secure. Again, let's go ahead and get a second connection. And to make sure these fire off a little bit better. And another reason I would suggest that you go ahead and glue these as you're fusing, you'll notice I moved this around, so I'm just going to slide it back to where it was and go from there. So next I'm going to run this. I've got my next cue. This is going to run into my bamboozle here. So here we have the bamboozle. You've got the fuse here. I'm going to run that in. I'm going to do this a little bit different this time to show you a different strategy. I'm not going to glue it. I'm just going to flip the cake over. It's not going to hurt the cake. I'm going to go ahead and take my fuse. May have to move this one over just a little bit for a little bit of time. I'm going to take that and I'm going to zip tie that to get my bamboozle going. So again, my fire is coming from the firefly, coming in this direction. It wants to hit bamboozle, so I want my black powder facing the direction that the fire is coming in. I want the base of my firework being at the top of that tape because that's where my timing is. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put this zip tie on there so I can get ready to do that. I'm going to get this fuse in place, and again, we pull that zip tie tight there. Then I will use a second zip tie to again ensure that I get a better connection. By the way, if you want to use tape, tape is just fine too. I'm just a fan of these zip ties because you don't have to worry about the tape sticking to the wrong thing, folding up, twisting, that type of thing. So now that I've done it and I've got my fuse on there, I need to glue this bamboozle down so that when I transport this pallet, I don't have any issues. So I'm going to put my bamboozle back into place. I'm going to put a healthy portion of liquid nails on the bottom of that. Okay, And by the way, I suggest on these cakes, when you put this liquid nails, give it a little wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. So that you get a little bit better bond. Next, we're taking the fuse. Our fire is trying to come off of bamboozle. We have a certain amount of time that we're trying to get the enforcer set off. I've got the tape ready. So I've got my fuse here. You'll notice I have plenty of fuse to get to my enforcer here. I will go ahead and do that. Get that fuse, or get that attached, and just repeat the process all the way down my entire fuse until I've got all of these fused up. By the way, another suggestion I would give, once I've got this thing fused, if I have extra fuse, I would suggest just eat the loss. Do not cut this, because I mean, sure, if you've got something that's low friction, which you should have anyway, you should be fine. I'm just going to eat the loss. Otherwise, once these cakes are attached, if I try to cut this, I might ignite my show while I'm trying to get it started. So I will just eat the loss here. Or like I showed in a different video, if you just want this fuse to be dead, knowing that, hey, I'm never going to be able to ignite this fuse here ever again, you can actually just wet this really well. Just get it very, very wet. Then you can snip it. You don't have to worry about friction because the black powder will not ignite. And then once you've taken the small piece off, you can just clip the rest of the wet and throw that away. That's the only way I would suggest snipping the extra that you have. This is Country Fellow Speaks this morning. Just want to show you the music that or the fireworks I was going to use for Thunderstruck, for Your Way's Better, for my fireworks show. I plan on having 7 songs. This is Pallet 2, and this is also how I do some fusing, how I glue these down. I did a little bit of planning off camera to put these in the correct position to make sure these fuses are ready. I would suggest you do that. Put these in the position you want them in. Before you actually put your fuse on, you don't have to do this tape method. You can just do as you go along. It's just something that I decided to do. The last thing I want to remind you is, notice this little disclaimer here. Place front side towards spectators for better view. Remember that. That's the reason I labeled this is the back. So you're probably thinking, now wait a minute, Country Fellow Speaks. This is the back of the pallet. This says face towards the spectators for better view. To be honest with you, it doesn't really matter if it points. If your fans are that way, you can turn the cake this way. What's important is you don't do a 90-degree rotation. You don't want it facing, if your fans are over there, you don't want the shell shooting in the wrong direction. So if it's going that way, you're fine. If it's going this way, you're fine. So you can just go in the opposite direction. Just don't go at a 90-degree action. Also, you'll notice here, I've got this one facing that way. This one says, for better view, please put towards audience. It's going that way. So reiterates the fact that, hey, this is facing the crowd, that's fine. That's facing away from the crowd, that's fine. However, if I do it like this, now I've ruined my show because my fans are that way, spectators should be this way, and I've turned it 90 degrees and it's messed up. 180-degree rotation's fine. Again, Country Fellow Speaks here this morning. Like, subscribe, make a comment if you would. That's going to help the YouTube algorithm push this video out so that more people can get this information on how to fuse these up and how to do music. Check out some of my other videos. You have a great day. God bless.